Yeah, I come from men that stand. I'm in the field and you just sit in the stands. Take that bass out your voice. If you ain't got no gun in your hand, I do what I want. And you don't even do what you can, you do what you told. I got no love for my foes that can mimic my delivery and copy my prose. But what they can't comprehend is how I stick to this code. It's either in you or not. It's not the kicks and the clothes. They ain't cut from the same cloth, can't come from the same loom, fit in similar shapes or even sit in the same room. Confusing authenticity with part of the costume. I'm teaching gifted children, you can't come in this classroom.
Dare to struggle, dare to win.
Yo, welcome to episode 4, Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. I'm Geechee, y'all here with the good brother, Doctor.
What's up, good brother? 4th episode, man. This shit coming fast.
I know, man. We feel like old folks. Old folks. I'm looking like you, man. I'm about to get some gray hair and stuff. I keep trying to cut it out, pull it out, pluck it out, bro.
Yeah, I think by the time we get to the 10th episode, man, all this might be white and gray, you know, so.
the people stressing y'all out? Stressing y'all out over there?
Man, it's life, man. There's a lot going on, good brother.
Yeah, man. So I want to welcome everybody to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, where we're going to bring y'all some black radical politics according to some CMB, Community Movement Builders Vantage Point. Got your brother here in Detroit. I'm in Atlanta. And we're here on Black Liberation Media. Love the network. Love the people that be in the chat. I think Black Liberation Media got the smartest people that watch. They be commenting and shit like that. But yeah, but because they're so smart and they also politicized, make sure you hit that copy link and share it to somebody who needs to hear some type of analysis, especially if somebody who's in college, who's about to go to college, or if people just need to know what the college people are talking about today. Because we're going to have a panel today of some college organizers. So at 6:15, we'll get started with the panel and talk to some dope organizers from around the country.
So what made you want to do that topic and invite the guest on we have for episode 4, good brother?
Man, so I was in DC this week, and I went the drop in. I was with my guy Kai, and we went to go drop in on some students at Howard, and I was just kind of like, blown away by some of the dialogue that they was having. I think they was watching an old panel with Fannie Lou Hamer, Kwame Ture, and yeah, it's like, yeah, it's about time to chop it up with them. And so I reached out to a couple of my comrades and connected with some young people in college, different colleges. And so yeah, I wanted to see what they got going on, especially in this time, man. Trump shutting shit down, so we got to figure out how they moving in these streets.
No, yeah, I think it's important conversation because we tend to think always about what happened in the streets, but we neglectful to like a lot of folks was in college or continue to be in college that was radicalized. Actually, the Black Studies movements was born on the college campus, I believe, in San Francisco. So, which played a crucial role in our movement. And also, I think there's a contradiction of the way we perceive education in this country, in particular, i.e., or e.g. colleges. If you go and get education, you're getting the white education, so to speak, right? And I think that's a debate in some levels, but we tend to forget, the guy behind me, Kwame Nkrumah, who came from Ghana to the United States, who pursued education and utilized that for the purpose of liberation. So yeah, I think that's a very needed discussion right now.
Yeah, man. So shout out to the people in the chat. Leah finally caught a show live. She's been trying to catch us. She was catching up on episode 3. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Peace to Kai. Kai helped put this panel together too. So he reached out to his solid young people, and they
man. I think if people underestimate you, man, you got a hell of a network, man. I think that's one part of being an organizer. That means people like your crazy ass.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I just just happen to be in rooms with smart ass people all the time. So
that's what's up, man.
I know how to ask questions. That's it.
That's it. But also, yeah, man, I want to give it to you, shout you out because you put this together real up under small amount of time, good brother. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Do you remember, I know you just got your doctorate, but do you remember some of your college days? What was that like? I can tell you about my college days at the PWI, but I'm gonna wait for yours because mine wasn't shit.
I got you. Well, some people don't know because you hear masters and PhD, whatever. But actually, I started at community college, and so one of the unique things about me at community college, like coming in older and kind of picking the classes that I wanted. But I remember this one class, I was a Black study class, and we was picking different topics, and I picked the topic around the Black Panther Party. And some of my classmates, they was like, how can he pick that topic? He can write about that topic in his sleep, right? And they was really just attacking me and shit. And there was others in my class that just stood up and like, and so what? The brother know what he know. Like, you jealous? You mad? Like, it was cool, but and I really want to emphasize, like, going to community college really set my course, allowed me to earn my PhD, and then when I went for my bachelor's, it was a point where I was just like tired of organizing, tired of being in, what I mean by tired of organizing, tired of being in these same old spaces. And I love knowledge and I love learning. And that's when I went to school to continue learning, but also to be in an environment to debate, have healthy debate, healthy discourse, being around other people who wasn't just so dogmatic and saying what they doing wasn't doing shit. So it was opportunities to be a student, and to be a student played a hell of a role in my trajectory where I'm at now. So what about you, good brother?
Man, so as I said, so first I went to college in Murfreesboro, North Carolina on a football scholarship. I got recruited by Lou Saban, a Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame coach who used to coach OJ. But they was tricking us though. He was like 80. So he brought a bunch of athletes up there and then he left. And so I ended up like leaving school for a while, working in radio for a while in Greensboro, but then I went back to school in Eastern Kentucky. And I think in terms of like organizing part, like, because that's when I really started organizing. I was organizing with Kentucky's for the Commonwealth. And I think that's my first time really seeing like really, really, really poor white people. Like talking about like, I felt privileged compared to what they had. But our school, man, our school was just like flooded with like athletes.
Okay.
It was like a majority white, but just black football players, which I was one, and then the black basketball players. And I think most of the time I just hated my time there. So I don't think, other than organizing and learning some of that stuff, I just was ready to go.
Okay.
But I actually was going to, when I was in North Carolina, I was going to a community college, but I still wanted to finish playing football. So on my way back to a JUCO, this coach called me it's called Pikeville University. He was like, yo, I got a full scholarship for you if you come out here. I was like, word? Just went.
Say no more?
No more. I went out there and played football in damn snow and mountains, and it, just wasn't a good idea. I wouldn't do it again, though.
So how did it playing, coming from South Carolina, and we know what the South is, but not everybody embraces a political consciousness that can be developed as a result of the social experience. Mm-hmm. And we know getting a scholarship, playing for football, or just sports in general, most folks, and rightfully so, their eyes on the league, whether that league is the football, NFL, NBA. So what was your trajectory as an athlete, and then your political consciousness that you have now? So
honestly, I think my school, so Pikeville was like a second chance school. Like my roommate won the national championship with Ohio State Buckeyes. His name E.J. Underwood.
Okay.
And he was a cornerback. The free safety, named Antoine Marsh from North Carolina. I think he went to NC State and then left and then came there. So I had like two NFL people who actually made it to the NFL caliber defensive backs in the backfield. And I played cornerback too, but also receiver.
Okay.
So this is when I learned, this idea of like do whatever it takes to help the team.
Right.
So we had a shortage in receivers, and I went over there to be a receiver. And then I stopped playing cornerback, which in turn happened to be the hardest position on the field because you depended on everybody else. You depend on the quarterback, the offensive coordinator, the O-line, but every other position on the field, like, I mean, you can get your clock up all you want. But I think what kind of frustrated me was a new coach came in after I got recruited. He brought in his whole team, and he pretty much feel like run the program in the ground. He got paid offensive coordinator, head coach, and offensive line. So he had like a really big salary.
A big budget.
Yeah, like no, his salary.
His salary was big. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And I remember one time we went to St. Francis in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we got beat like 63-3 or something.
Shit.
And he walked off the field and told the president, he was like, "Man, that was worse than I thought." I looked at this, I was like, "Nigga, you knew we was gonna lose." I was like, "Yo, I'm done, yo." I graduate early, right? Because what they do with football players, they'll make you take easy classes the semester before, so you could qualify and play for the next season. But I used to, make my own schedule, and I graduated a year before. And he was like, "Yo, would you come back after you graduate?" I was like, "Hell no." Like, I'm not. but from them, I already kind of lost my taste of football, so it really wasn't a thing. And then but as I said, I always kind of had some type of, like, the other Geechee people, we always had some type of like cultural heritage. But I think in terms of like class, I started to build a class analysis in Eastern Kentucky because, like I said, I met so many poor white people. It's crazy. But,
Got you.
But I think you got a couple people backstage. You might be missing one, but in a second we're gonna get started and pull some of our comrades on the stage and have this conversation. Anything else you wanna share before we get into the conversation? Any thoughts?
No, man. I'm looking forward to it. I hope our audience have an open mind. Please share, engage, and I think about the thing about organizing. An organizer should organize wherever they at home, in the streets, in the church, in the school, and about being an organizer is about learning terrain. But also as an organizer, and that word is a very tricky and loaded word, and it sometimes is weaponized against us. And as an organizer, you have to take on different forms. It could be the typist, it could be the listener, it could be the door knocker, right? And so it's much deeper than just organizing. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, particularly like on the campus, and how do we connect it to the community and community to the campus. So yeah.
So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make sure I cue the people up, and then we'll have a quick break, and then we'll see y'all when we get back with some good organizers. Whoa, we got a whole bunch more than I planned for. All right, so we'll be right back. Take a break, get a drink. Smoke.
I'm throwing copper at the coppers, but I'm shaking like Morocco. Say my prayers with the pistol, serve the sinners with the chopper. All my buddies got it from scratch. My house had Betty Crocker. His mama owned D. He ain't even get no shot up. Profit is invisible. Profit come from product. He thinking buffet. He can't comprehend no potluck. God bless the child with his own powder to rock.
Yo. So we got a gang of young folks on this call. So what I want to do real quick, I'm going to ask a question, right? And I want y'all to answer the question and introduce yourself. Tell us what school you at, and then also what orgs you affiliated with. So to start us off, from your experience perspective, you're in college in 2025. What kind of students would you say colleges are producing? Just as an opening answer, and then again share your name, your school, and then which org you are affiliated with, and anybody can come off mute and do so.
I guess I can come off mute. That's fine. To answer your question first, I think it's multifaceted. I think colleges can be a place for students to really grow and learn and gain consciousness, whether that be like revolutionary consciousness, political consciousness. But there's also, a side of it that sort of fast tracks kids into, that sort of corporate life, or, working for empire, being, agents and producers of empire, whether that be the way they target certain fields, things like STEM. But I think the space overall is something that's important. Educational spaces, access to higher educational spaces is important. And so I think that's because it does give students an opportunity to grow. like flat out. And I guess I'll introduce myself. My name's David Green. I'm here on behalf of Bantu Coalition, which is a student organizing collective at Howard University.
So let's go Dexter next.
Hey, I'm Dexter. I'd say, yeah, I definitely would agree with that. A lot of college students, there's a big divide between college students. A lot of us are, we get to college, we start to join organizations, we start to get active and can learn a lot about organizing. But at the same time, like, as David Green said, a lot of students are just, oh, a lot of students are coming to college just so that they can like hop on that train to go work at McKinsey or to work at Lockheed Martin. And I think that divide is like really noticeable on campus, especially if you ask about like divestment or any like major issue on campuses right now. You could definitely see that. But I'm at Fisk University in Nashville. It's an HBCU, and I'm affiliated with the Southern Youth Solidarity Network, which our goal is to subjugate the students and the youth to the interests of the working class.
And Daniela, go ahead.
Hey everybody. I would say I really agree with David how he explained the kind of situation on campus. I feel like while there are people who are kind of finally waking up and seeing the world for what it is. I have a classmate who's been sending me texts like every morning. And it's kind of entertaining to see somebody finally be waking up to what the world really is. But there's also a lot of just like keeping your head down and sticking with what's already been basically told to you, what you have to follow. And in particular, I'm at UMD. It's a very vote blue no matter who kind of environment. And so there's a sense of people don't understand the connection between liberalism and fascism because they're right in the middle of it. Yeah. I'm Daniela. I organize with UMD SJP, DMV SJP, our wider coalition, and then also with Palestinian Youth Movement.
Thank you. Giovanna?
Yeah. Again, I agree with everything that David said to begin with. I think that, at least for me, from my experience, I think a lot of people come into college with a sense of fear, knowing that they want to get a job like straight out of college to pay for everything, to be able to afford food and rent. So I see a lot of my classmates take like the STEM route, going into engineering, trying to again work for Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all of those companies. But I do think college is a really important space to have like healthy debate with people and have that sort of like knowledge production. And I think also people are kind of scared to get into organizing because they've seen how fragile the position of a student organizer is. We can have our aid taken away at a split second. We could have the university come down on us, remove our housing. So definitely a very like scary space to be in, but also very necessary to struggle as a student organizer. But I'm Giovanna. I recently just graduated from George Washington University, and I was a part of Black Defiance there, which is a Black revolutionary student group trying to raise the consciousness of Black students there.
And Ya?
Hey y'all, I'm Ya. I was studying at Carnegie Mellon University, but I'm in the process of leaving there. Like similar to what y'all are saying, colleges have been producing young folks to get bought out. They're never going to teach us how to fight. They're never going to teach us to develop politics centering the interests of the working class, let alone the advanced of the working class. And so that's something that we have to struggle with, understanding who are we fighting for? Does it serve the people or does it serve the ops? That type of thing.
All right. And please help me if I mispronounce this. And Nadi or not? I don't know.
Yes, it's Andy.
Andy. I was close. No, I wasn't. Go ahead.
So hey everyone, I'm Andy. I'm also with Southern Youth Solidarity Network. I'm working within the education committee for SYSN right now. I go to FISC, and on the question of like what kind of students are college producing, I would like agree with everything that's been said so far. There's definitely a degree of like complacency and like hustle culture among colleges where a lot of like engineers for Lockheed Martin and McKinsey and all of them are getting produced. But also in the last few years, there has been also a very rise in the rebellious attitude of students in the last few years. So I think that's also something that's positive. The only the only kind of like setback is just like I feel like students as a whole, we are like kind of trying to figure out where our place is in the struggle. And with our line with like SYSN line, we say that our work should be subjugated to the interest of the working class. So I feel we feel like we students should go out in our community, try to organize among workers, try to organize among exploited people here. And I feel like so that's about my answer.
Well, we thank you having you all, and thank you for that little feedback. My name is Dr. Yusef Bunchy Shakur. I'm based here in Detroit. Uh, my question is kind of twofold to some of the answers, and not all you got the answer, just a couple. Is like you talked about the orgs you are in and the environment, but can you talk about like your own personal development to your political consciousness, your personal development to that led you? What was that moment in your life to say this is like that breakthrough, like this is who I want to become? And there's a book, there's an incident that led you to come to where you at. Not everybody jump at once now.
I could go ahead. Yeah. I think when I think back, I really do believe that it was that fervor during like the 2020 protests. I believe I was like 16, 17 around that time. So like coming out of high school, where I can really say that like I may have been aware of certain things, but like really didn't put in the effort to develop in that political consciousness. But I think that moment was like for me, and I think a lot of members of my generation, like a moment where you can kind of see the power of people, like, and it was that perfect storm of people being inside and, you know, people not really having to go to work and not being preoccupied with other things that like made so many people take to the streets. And then the aftermath of that obviously kind of brought you to a space where you're like, oh, we had to be organized or else like this is gonna fizzle out like it did back then. And then like from that moment on, it was kind of like developing the political consciousness to understand like why organizing is necessary, how do we organize, and like to what end. So yeah, that's it for me.
I can go as well. So I'm born and raised from Boston. So I think Boston personally has like a really strong youth organizing scene. So I kind of got into that community very early on, doing a lot of work around like policing and abolition, but also public transit and thinking about environmental justice as a holistic thing rather than just thinking about the natural environment. And I've always loved education. I love knowledge. I love learning. I love reading. So I was excited to get to college. And then I realized, I think it was my freshman year or maybe like the summer before I started college, I read Assata Shakur's biography. And that completely changed my perspective on everything. You know, she tells us that our enemies are not going to give us the education we need to overthrow them, that schools are not going to give us the knowledge that we need to free ourselves, and we have to do it ourselves. She also talks about how students can't be bogged down in theory and not doing it in practice. And there's a very thin line between that and how students are a part of a movement, but they're not going to win the revolution alone. So I think all of those teachings from Asada's biography really influenced me to get into organizing in college, not just organizing within like the grounds of the university, but going into the DC community, returning back to the Boston community and organizing with folks here. So yeah.
So I want to start with Daniela and Dexter, and anybody else can chime in too. So as we just heard about like theory and practice, I was reading this line about education becomes a commodity to be used for competitive advantage in the labor market, turning students into customers to be pursued. And so as you think about, like, most of us are taught to go to college to ensure our career or have a particular career. But when you have a particular politics, particular actions, I'm wondering how y'all think about uh, knowing how your politics is and the consequences of those politics, and how do you see, you using this experience on college after campus, and if that doesn't make sense, basically the consequences or the sanctions that happen to you for standing on a particular politic can possibly impact your career or your job afterwards. So how you grapple with that?
I guess I can go first. Um, I would say that I kind of knew that I was gonna be going this direction since I was a little kid. Um, and so there's certain things where it's like, yeah, you know that these are the risks, but the outcome, our aim definitely overweighs that. Um, and I feel like sometimes it's not even a question of am I gonna do this or not? Because they're well thought out risks. It's not necessarily being reckless, but you do need to push the boundaries, otherwise you're never going to actually make change, which I think is kind of brilliant with the name of this program, Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, because if you don't actually try, if us at UMD, if we didn't try to go for the lawsuit and get the injunction to have our vigil, we never would have had it. And then they would have set a precedent that they can shut down free speech whenever the fuck they feel like it. So I think it we have an idea of, the direction that this is gonna take us, and we never know, what it's actually like to experience these instances of repression, um, until you actually experience it. But even the fact that you're deciding to go forward regardless is like the first step, which is kind of what, as organizers, we're always trying to get our membership, get the general community to kind of reach that point where they feel more comfortable to even say, okay, I'm willing to take this risk. It's not really a question. I have to do this. It's a duty. It's an obligation to us, to people, to humanity, to our future, to all of that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I gotta say, I do appreciate the title, Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win. We recognize the Fred Hampton quote. Um, but yeah, personally, for my own career, I mean, I'm a political science student on a law track, so I'm not too worried because I'm planning to be a public defender if all goes well. And I think that this doesn't really, like organizing doesn't affect that necessarily. But it's important for like students to recognize that since college is a commodity at this point, I mean, like the saying, it's priced as a luxury, but um, treated like a necessity. And because of that, a lot of students are coming from like increasingly wealthier backgrounds. Like there's a lot of petit bourgeois students, a lot of students from just middle class backgrounds. And because of that, the organizations that a lot of students tend to join to like help the community aren't actually getting to the root of issues. A lot of certain organizations might, for example, have an initiative to feed the homeless and to help out in that way, but have no initiative to actually go in and try to look at the root issues or try to establish maybe a tenant union or something so that you can prevent that from happening and from getting to that place. So I'd say because of that, because of the economic background that a lot of students are coming from, organizations like Season, like the Southern Youth Solidarity Network, are important to be able to teach students to look away from like the potential for misleadership that they may find in other organizations.
Anybody else want to take a stab at that before Yusef gives another question?
I mean, we kind of talked about it. I'm gonna just dig a little deeper, and I'm curious because college is political as a result of, I mean, especially now, it's big business. But there's this educational component, career component, and so with all you guys taking a political line, developing some level of politics, how do you struggle with the contradictions? Being on college campus, being in school, hearing the, if you're a revolutionary or organizer, how do you see yourself in the white man system, and all the crazy shit that people try to weaponize against those of us who decide to go to college. I'm curious to hear some of you guys' thoughts around that.
I would say I definitely agree with that. Like college have a very contradictory aspect to them, where it's like a place for education, but at the same time, a lot of these colleges are huge capitalist institutions that rely on exploiting people, on oppressing people, and having like very shady like finances and stuff like that. So I feel like a part of the experience of organizing when you are in college is just to like realize that contradiction and realizing that contradiction in the terms that we cannot be limited to our college, that students cannot be limited to just organizing around college and demands of the students living in the college, but we have to kind of take a step forward and actually try to like integrate with the working class families, with the working class people that are like struggling around the area, around the place where we are like studying. So I feel like one part of that is just like realizing that contradiction that comes with college life, and also to kind of go forward from our from where we are, in our case like just colleges, to actually going outside and doing the praxis in real time.
Yeah, similar to what Andy's saying, like as students or young people in general, we aren't like a class. We aren't a social class because our relation to a job site or production isn't the same as workers. And even at campuses like CMU is a leech on like working class folks in Pittsburgh. And that can't be it can't be reconciled. And so in order to base ourselves on like workers as a driving force in organizing and working class interests in organizing, we have to go to those communities, learn from them, because we can't speak on the conditions they know best. And supporting their efforts to organize themselves, fighting for their own goals against whoever the enemy is, wherever they may be.
I want to start with David and Giovanna. I wonder if there's things that y'all observe. So you see that the efforts of Trump and whoever else talking about DEI and the efforts to make Black folks disappear from public life altogether. And I just wonder, what have your experience been on or off campus as you see this, especially I guess when people would argue that, we Black folks got in school because, DEI or affirmative action type shit. So yeah, I wonder what have y'all seen since this latest shit show?
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to describe it. I think on campus, at Howard, there's a bit of like uncertainty in the air. Obviously, nobody buys the rhetoric, but behind that is like real policy and real initiatives coming from the top down that like are threatening these institutions to the extent that they're getting federal funding and things like that. So like aside from the fact that like we don't really buy on campus, it's definitely like a bit of uncertainty and a bit of fear, honestly, like and like about what's going to happen. As for like off campus and just in general, I do think that like the rhetoric has been a bit overplayed and that people have been seeing that. I think that when Americans see a tragedy like this, their first instinct isn't always to think about, oh, maybe a Black person was in charge. And I think that the MAGA movement has been running this gambit for so long that people are a bit tired of it. That's the perspective I can give. I do know that like it is the way that they're like forcing policy and justifying a lot of these changes and what they're doing to government now. And so like I believe that like we'll see more and more and more as these contradictions come into play, how much the American people really buy this. And I think it's not a lot, to be honest. And I think that's kind of why we got the election we did, which was really just indicated general apathy. But yeah, I think on and off campus, that's kind of the vibe around this rhetoric because it's starting to not make sense.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I think GW is a bit different because it's a PWI and like 2 blocks from the White House. Everybody has an internship on Capitol Hill if that's their thing. And I think a lot of people have responded to, like the rights claims of DEI with like a very liberal take of DEI. They're advocating for Black people to come into positions of power. But for the last year and a half, there's been a Black dean that's called the police on us that has stood by the police while we've been assaulted, that has allowed for the raiding of our Palestine Solidarity encampment in April. So I think there's a huge struggle for Black students and racialized students that have a certain level of consciousness on campus to combat both of those sides of the coin, recognizing that DEI in the sense of having Black people in high spaces is not going to save us, but also that there is like a real threat that the right is making against racialized people. But I think a lot of people, again, like a lot of racialized people that have that level of consciousness realize that Black faces in high spaces aren't going to save us. They recognize that, the university, its first obligation is to capital. Its first obligation is to capitalism. And when we view it as a business transaction, that's when we can start shaking shit up. That's when we start viewing it as a place of, like purity and sanctity, and just a place that is exploiting people, is pushing natives out of their homes in DC and across the country. So I think there is like a very big struggle on campuses right now, especially at GW.
Can you guys talk about any campaigns that you led at your on campus? What was some of the success, struggles, also possibility of building coalitions across political and racial lines?
I'm a bit excited to like talk about what we've been working on. So it's like I guess I'll go ahead. So we've been working on a mutual aid collective pretty much outside of the campus community. And the goal has been, to establish a presence in the community through like consistency and really running a route, which is so we have different materials, whether it be informationals on mutual aid, updatings on like the political movement, things like that. And the idea of a route came from my experience with the Communist Party in Connecticut, which is a consistent thing we do to engage and help establish and, assist communities through different levels of organization. Doing it here has been really exciting. We've made a lot of progress as far as, building that coalition, being able to assist this community with, getting the community center set up, which is what is now in the works now. And then more broadly connecting that with some of the surrounding communities who have their own community centers going. And it's been in the works, over the course of this past month, and is really starting to come together as we're, engaging with people who are doing this, because obviously when it comes to coalition building and organizing in general, like we don't want to reinvent the wheel. The whole goal is to push the consciousness where it exists and to build these broader coalitions. And so I think that's been going really amazingly as far as it has. And so the goal really is to just establish consistency, because through that you gain, trust, and you gain, a presence that people will, listen to and recognize as a force that is there to help and to, be in community with. And that's really been going well. It's the Mutual Aid Monday Collective, as we've been calling it. And it's really getting off the ground.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share any current campaigns or history of campaigns since you've been organizing?
Yes. So with SYSN, we have also been occupied with a lot of work, not specifically on campus, but around Nashville. So some of the campaigns that we are correctly active in is some campaigns that are like run by Aluta Sige, which is the organization that is incubating our organization. So with Aluta Sige, they have a campaign going on with Tennessee Drivers Union here in Nashville, where a lot of Uber, Lyft drivers are getting organized to fight for their better conditions. And we also work with Poder Popular in Nashville, which is doing a lot of work with tenant organizing around various mobile trailer parks and other like apartment complexes here in Nashville. And apart from that, like last year, we were also involved with for 10 weeks with Free Alabama movement, which was a movement started by incarcerated folks at Alabama prisons. We are like really facing the worst kind of repression there is, and also very worse conditions of worse like working conditions for them. Uh, we have been kind of like active on those fronts. Apart from that, we also do the work of social investigation and class analysis around different places in Nashville, where our main goal is to integrate with the community that is there, do a brief social investigation, and also analyzing the different classes that are at play in the areas. And along with that, we also do political education for youth and students around Nashville in the form of Justice School, which we do every year. And so that's about the work that we have been kind of involved and are getting involved in currently.
Thank you. So one of the questions Yusef asked when I was why did I want to throw this together? Because as I said, I went to Howard University with my brother Kai, and we sat in the class with some young people, and hearing these people have conversation compared to the typical adults, it was kind of like I was kind of blown away, and it kind of leads me to a question. Manny also said, I wish my peers were on this type of time when I was in college. It was like pulling teeth, and I wasn't even this far along. I know I wasn't as far as long as y'all are as well. And I tell Jared Ball every day, like, I wish that he was my professor when I was in college. But we possibly could be romanticizing that the shit is that popping. So maybe share what it's like to have this type of politic on campus. Because I know when I was there at Howard, they was talking about the Black Student Union act as the Black misleadership class. So I'm pretty sure there are Black excellence and brown excellence on there that y'all have to struggle against. So maybe share a little bit about some of those ideological struggles that you have on campus, and if you are in fact the minority in those spaces, politically at least.
I can answer this one. So UMD, I will say, is the first PWI I've been at. And so that in itself is like a permanent culture shock of some of the people that I have to deal with. And I guess in general, UMD is also very Zionist. I would say there's probably like a solid 20% of the campus that are staunch Zionists. On top of that, there's all the imperialists because, it's a big comp sci school and engineering. And there's a lot of secret labs. So there's a Vice article from a few years back that literally said that UMD is like the most militarized campus in the country, not just because of the police, but because of all the secret shit that they do that they don't tell you about. And so while our organizations are getting more mainstream in the sense that they're known, people can't go around without knowing about SJP. And we're putting together an anti-imperialist coalition, but it's kind of rough out there because also there's a lot of people that their parents immigrated from other countries, but in those countries they were very high class. So they still have that mindset, even if maybe here they didn't grow up like that. And so just in general, and this is talking from a state school, right? So it's already different in the private schools. There's a lot of people who want to make change, but are not actually willing to try to sharpen their contradictions. You know, there's a lot of people that want to feel good, want to do good things, but they're not ready, they're not willing to actually look at their own privilege, not in the liberal sense of being like, "Oh, I'm so privileged. Let me feel bad for you," but like actually countering it and actually, you know, doing what they can, giving back to the community, giving back to the people what they can. Um, and even being a state school, it still feels like a bubble. And that's something that I really want to try to like work with everybody to pop because there's so many people around here, you know what I mean? And a lot of us did go to schools in the area. I grew up in MCPS, other people grew up in PG, but there is also a difficulty of breaking through um, ethnic barriers, I would say. Um, since I was a kid, I've always been friends with like people from all different countries, everything. But not everybody has been in such mixed schools. And so creating, I guess, a more normal sense of like everybody's going throughout different communities. There's a lot of closing in just within a singular community. And so sometimes that makes it a little bit hard.
Anybody else want to share their horror stories? No. So look, I have a interesting outgoing statement by each of y'all. So one, I want y'all to tell me the book that y'all will throw at some of y'all college students' head with the intent that when you do it, they will learn the book and actually change their actions. But as you're going out with that one book that you would throw at your college buddies or peers' head, again, tell us the org that you are with, maybe even some things that we should look out for, and then how to stay in contact with y'all. So, but start with that book. We going with Dexter. You ready?
Yeah, definitely. Firstly, representing the Southern Youth Solidarity Network, and even though this book might be a little like advanced for certain people, I feel like personally I go to an HBCU, so people are already kind of, or a lot of students are kind of ready for something a little more advanced, but at the same time, The Communist Necessity is a book that quite a few of our members have read and that we've gone over before. And I would say that book I would definitely recommend because there's still kind of like that specter of going further and further left and like becoming like, or like, and even like reading communist literature. So I would definitely throw that at them with the hope that they catch it and absorb it.
Perfect. Danielle, got your book yet?
You know, this is hard. There's a lot of good books out there.
Mhm.
I think I would say Trinity of Fundamentals, um, which was kind of recently published out in English. And it takes you through an interesting narrative structure of basically living a life of secrecy, um, which is a semi-autobiographical story about a very prominent person in one of the leading Palestinian factions. Um, and I think even within the first few pages, there were some very relatable things. For example, a girl was like struggling with her studies because she was organizing and studying at the same time. So you know, these are things that all of us, I'm sure, experience. But it's also not exactly something that you normally read about. What it is to become basically a professional revolutionary. And yeah, I'm Daniela. I organize with UMD, DMB-SJP, as well as with the Palestinian Youth Movement in the DMB.
Giovanna, go ahead.
Can I do 2 books?
I mean, if you won't be violent, do it.
Getting books of both sides. I think, again, reiterating Asada, the autobiography, completely radicalized me. I think the discipline that I've learned as an organizer has come from reading that book. So I definitely recommend that to my peers. I think another book is Freedom Dreams by Robin D.G. Kelly. I think that book has also made me realize that a radical imagination is necessary to organizing, and Black people across the diaspora have envisioned but also practiced a new world, and it's definitely possible. But yeah, again, I'm Giovanna, part of GW Black Defiance. I also forgot to mention I'm also part of the Malcolm X grassroots movement in DC. But yeah.
Nice. Go ahead, yeah.
I'd say I'd want to throw Arak Araling Activista. That's by Comrades in the Philippines, because it's a mass course, like explaining the principles they uphold and how you like organize in a correct method. And I'd also throw in mass work by those comrades in the Philippines as well. And again, I'm Ya. I'm with the Southern Youth Solidarity Network.
Right. I guess we're doing 2 books now, so I'll just take 2. I guess they're a little basic, but we can go like State and Revolution and Imperialism, High Stage of Capitalism from Lenin. I think for me, that was what brought me to the idea of revolution on a fundamental level. Why is it necessary? And the more analysis of capital therein. I think they're approachable. I think as far as theory goes, they're easy to pick up, and you'll get that aha moment. But yeah, I'm David. I organize on behalf of Bantu Coalition, which is a student organizing community at Howard University, and I'm also a member of the Communist Party USA.
Take us home.
The 2 books I would say is the first one that I would say is Combat Liberalism by Mao. I feel like it's a very important book right now because we have this really new wave of like sorts of like young people trying to get organized, and I feel like liberalism, it's not an individual problem but like a systemic problem that comes up. So it's very important for us organizer to kind of learn what those liberal tendencies might be, when we do actually do the work of organizing among the people. And another book that I would recommend is Dialectical Logic by Ewald Ilenko. It's a very concise book about the history of dialectical thought. So if you want to go more on the theory side, I feel like it's a very good book to check out. So yeah, those 2 books, Combat Liberalism and Dialectical Logic. And I'm Andy, and I organize with SYSN, the Southern Youth Solidarity Network. Thank you.
Man, thank you for that. Man, you guys dropped some heavy hitters. Wow, I thought it was gonna go light. Before we go, I have a particular question just for the fellas. And when we think about organizing and movement building, there's been a lot of male chauvinism that has contributed to the downfall, the displacement of organizing, particularly attack on women, of this continued backwardness. And I was wondering, have you guys encountered that? What are your thoughts on that in relationship to being men and males, possibly identifying that in that way? And just me, I'm a new African revolutionary national that has a Black feminist thought to how I organize now. So just curious.
Yeah, I could take this one. Totally. Within education, the education program that we teach at the Southern Youth Solidarity Network Justice School, we have a section that we talk about how patriarchy, racism, and capitalism are all intertwined, since these 3 systems were brought up together, and how you can't tear apart one of them without tearing apart all of them. So we definitely look to ensure like gender equality and to make sure that, I mean, that men can stay in line and that they also understand like the history of that as well. I'm sure we're all familiar with Ella Baker, who was like instrumental in the civil rights movement, but at the same time, she faced nothing but backlash from her male colleagues, and she faced a lot of roadblocks in her work, which a lot of it was more effective than just telling a speech or doing small things. And at the same time, she was reprimanded to work in secretarial roles for a lot of meetings and things. So we understand like the history of that and this patriarchal racial capitalism that we live under. We understand that all of it has to go or none of it's going to go.
Anybody gonna add on to that? I mean, that was a dope
Yeah,
answer.
that was I really appreciate that answer. I think in an organizing space, it comes out when we really think about our processes and how we decide on things and how we organize and plan as a group. You know, how we come to consensus, how we engage in like democratic processes is all like a manifestation of like those social relations. And I think that like to the extent patriarchy plays a role, like male chauvinism plays a role, like that's where it comes out when people are being, suppressed, where their voices aren't being heard in spaces or they don't feel like they're as represented as other people. And so I think that's like the essence of organizing is to expand everyone's voice, everyone's ability to participate and to come to a collective consensus. And I think that like you combat that patriarchal individualism with like mass collectivism. And it's why it's stressed so heavily in our organizing work because, it's the only thing that removes that self and that feeling that like you are the great man who's deciding for everyone. That's not how history works. That's not how these organizing bodies move forward. And it's something that like we actively have to be breaking at every step.
So that we don't be deemed. Giovanna, you got to tell us if that was good or not. If it wasn't, you need to.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
No, y'all got it. Y'all got it.
Hey, listen, I appreciate y'all. Y'all have the airways anytime y'all need it. Hit me up. All of y'all have my email contact. All right. Appreciate the work that y'all doing and a lot more hopeful that we're going to get this shit right. So, Dexter, go ahead.
Yeah. Would we be able to get a recording of this?
Yes, it's up on YouTube. I'll send y'all the link too, but it's up there. And yeah. But remember, y'all got to come back sometime soon whenever y'all ready. Don't leave us hanging. I appreciate y'all.
Appreciate y'all. Salute.
So up next, we gonna bring on our brother from Ypsi or Ipsy. I keep naming it wrong, but stay tuned. We'll be back.
I'm throwing copper at the coppers, but I'm shaking like Morocco. Say my prayers with the pistol, serve the sinners with the chopper. All my buddies got it from scratch. My house had Betty Crocker. His mama owned D. He ain't even get no shot up. Profit is invisible. Profit come from product. He thinking buffet. He can't comprehend no potluck. God bless the child with his own powder to rock.
So we back. Dare to struggle, dare to win. My brother Shane. I just name it wrong. It's not Ipsy, right?
Ypsilanti, yeah, but it's like an I sound instead of.
Why do I be saying Yip? Oh, that's why I be trying to say Yipsy. See, fucking it up. Well, how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. How y'all doing today?
Cool,
Good.
man. So listen, man, we
Geechee,
want to know.
that's that drink you still be having in you, man. Fucking
What
up your
drink?
pronunciation. You know, man. My bad.
You know, I don't drink. I only drink zero proof, man.
My bad, bro.
What you got going on, man? How you feeling? What's going on up there? The snow, the work. How you feeling, bro?
Doing good. We're doing good. My relatively new chapter in CMB, so we're still getting our footing, still recruiting, working on retention right now. Got our numbers up to about 10 members, 10 dedicated people. We got some students, we got some healthcare workers, we got some dedicated organizers, we got some arts and culture folk, excuse me. So we're excited. We're definitely getting our footing right now. I'm still figuring out what it looks like to put this thing together.
So most folks outside, even good brother, I call it Ipsy. Geechee don't know like Ipsy, right? We know about U of M, University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Ipsy is like in the shadow of Ann Arbor. So can you talk about that political dynamic in relationship to a community of Ipsy and the whiteness and then the Black community that exists in there?
Absolutely. So Ipsy has Eastern Michigan University in it as well. So we got the University of Michigan about 15 minutes to our west, and we got Eastern right here in the city. University of Michigan has been a gentrifying force for a long time. They've been pushing Eastern Michigan out of Ypsilanti themselves. So there's definitely a dynamic there, dealing with their carcerality, right? Dealing with the police department on the campus, dealing with students, members in the CMB IPSI on campus are being repressed for the work that they're doing on campus. So it's a constant battle, not just with the landlords in IPSI and with the power structure, but with the university posing as a liberal beacon of diversity and things like that, but in actuality suppressing Black, Palestinian, and other colonized and marginalized voices, and really moving on the land and buying up land and really pushing people out of the city. Ypsilanti's cost of living is really skyrocketed over the last few years with the proliferation of students that come in. Most U of M students can't afford to live in Ann Arbor, so they come into IPSI, pushing us lifelong residents out of the city. So it's a ongoing battle, and we're definitely engaged in that struggle with the university.
So if you can talk a little bit about maybe the birth of the IPSI chapter for CMB, and then maybe again talk deeply into like one of the top programs y'all might have going on or campaigns y'all got going on.
Absolutely. So our IPSI chapter, we were a formation before we joined CMB. We were a small group doing mutual aid work in the city. Just realizing that there was a void in Black radical politics in our city, in our area. There's a lot of Black history. There's a lot of strong Black families, a long lineage of Black folk up here since the Civil War, all the way up through today. But we, like I said, we sensed a void in the Black radical politics. So we started doing mutual aid work out at Liberty Plaza in Ann Arbor, serving the homeless population there and doing some coalition building with different churches and different groups that pose themselves against the state out here. Early 2025, we're looking to open up our health and wellness clinic. That's going to feature a partnership with Reiki for Evolution, our sister Adrian. Our sister Alexis is going to help us expand the acupuncture clinic that happens out there at Mama Kua House in Detroit to Ypsilanti. We're going to do harm reduction, education, and Narcan distribution. And we also have a full spectrum doula that's going to join our health and wellness team. We're going to run this a few times a month. So that's something that's super important to us and we're super excited about. Like I said, we continue the mutual aid work. We're going to partner with our members up at U of M in Ann Arbor to continue the work at Liberty Plaza. We also set up a free people store at Bridge Community Cafe, who we partner with in Ypsilanti. We do public facing political education. We call it community learning. So we try to do stuff relatable to the work that we do or relatable to the things that people are interested in the community. Arts and culture events, trying to meet people where they're at. And we also are preparing a lot for gardening so we can harvest food and have conversations around food sovereignty and hopefully launch a free food program coming from this garden. As far as coalition building, that's a big part of what we do. So we're a part of the Michigan Action for Cuba Committee. We're a part of the National Network on Cuba. So, Michigan has a long history and a lineage of Cuba solidarity activism. The Cops Off Campus Coalition up at University of Michigan, which our sister Nia will come talk to you about soon. And we've also joined the campaign to shut down the Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility here in Ypsilanti. So the only prison in the state of Michigan that is dedicated to incarcerating women is in Ypsilanti. It's on the other side of the highway. So Ypsi's kind of divided by I-94 highway because it didn't have, most Black folk are on the south side of Ypsi, over on the west part of Ypsi. But on the other side of the highway, it's more country where most of the white folk kind of resorted to, more of the money resides. But this is also where they incarcerate the women in our state. Black mold growing. Women are making maybe 80 cents a day to work, but the bottle of water costs like $3.50. Medical assistance is being withheld. The prison is, they call it Valley of Death. I said it's Women's Huron Valley Correctional Facility, but they call it Valley of Death for a reason. So these are some of the things that we involved ourselves in the city and across Southeast Michigan.
Can you talk about, since you guys transitioning from the formation into a chapter CMB, how has that been with the people? And again, IPSI is like a small community, and with the dynamic you just talked about with 94 splitting, how they relating to the politics and the organizing, and also what are some of the challenges that you guys, besides what you kind of alluded to with U of M, the college, with it being pretty much a small college town is there any other challenges?
One of the big issues is the transient nature of the city. I mean, like I said, students are in and out. People are in and out. I mean, people kind of bounce in between the metro area, trying to find the cheapest rent. So it's tough to build those long-term relationships. Like I said, people have been in Ypsi for years, and over the last 20 years, people have been bouncing more out to Belleville, Inkster, Westland, kind of spreading where they can to find that cheap rent. We've been received well, especially by the political community out here. CNB's reputation kind of precedes itself, so we definitely were received well. We had relationships before CNB, but there are particular challenges to being in a different formation. I would say those challenges are positive. We've only learned. We've only been able to grow. We've only been able to look at our work in Ypsi and juxtapose it to the work that we see in Detroit and Sacramento, and we can learn from our brothers and sisters everywhere else. So I would say the challenges have been productive and constructive to our development. Like I said, we're a baby chapter. We're one of the newer groups on the block right now. So we're always looking for that guidance. But as far as building those relationships in Ypsi, I would say they've been overall well, but the transient nature of the city makes organizing a little difficult. Students in and out, residents in and out, people being displaced. But it makes the work more and more necessary.
So more of a I don't know if it's a philosophical or ideological, but whenever I like to ask this question around mutual aid, especially as we are trying to politicize folks and get people to engage in something that's going to help us transform a society or social order. So like if you were to explain mutual aid, what is the objective of mutual aid? How would you describe or explain what mutual aid is and purpose?
Mutual aid for us, and overall, just the programming that we do is about structuring alternatives, right? So we understand our capacity is limited, and we're not going to be able to combat a Walmart, right? But when it comes to getting people cheap resources and things like that, we see this as alternative institution building, as an important way of engaging people in that alternative thinking. I think a lot of people understand that the reality is messed up. They understand that they are powerless in a capitalist system, but the alternatives, what to do about it, how to get organized, and to intervene in that material reality, I think a lot of that is lacking. So that for us is what mutual aid and these survival programs offer an opportunity to do, is to show what being oriented toward people and that survival as opposed to profit and accumulation, what that looks like. So we're not looking to combat a Walmart or things like that. Like I said, we're looking to provide the whatever alternatives we can, so we can open up people's minds and bring them into challenging their reality and intervening in their material conditions.
So I'm not sure if I heard it, but the question is, what was that possible event, book, or situation that led you to develop your political consciousness to want to pursue organizing through a radical lens?
So today is actually Trayvon Martin's birthday, and that was his martyrdom was a big step for me. I was in high school. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I remember having the same physical dimensions as Trayvon. I was about 6 foot, about 165, 170 pounds, and it really started to hit me, and I started to question my relationship to the society at large, and what could be done, not just to me on a level, but what could happen to my people. It only snowballed from there with Mike Brown and Eric Gardner coming a few years later. But again, I kind of knew things were messed up. I was having my own issues with the local police, but I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know what organizing meant. I didn't understand political movement. I didn't understand what revolution was. So for me, it was the martyrdom of our people over and over again, and seeing these things play out over and over again on your phone, on your social media, on the news, and not knowing what to do about it. Getting real depressed about it, really getting down in the weeds. So going through a therapy process, and I was lucky enough to have a therapist who grew up out in Detroit, Dr. Euro Hill, and Dr. Hill told me stories about remembering those tanks and those gunshots about the '67 rebellion in Detroit. So he gave me a dialectic analysis, gave me an analysis that it's us, not me, right? It's not something's wrong with Shane on a particular level, but something's wrong with the way the system is structured, and it's going to continue to curate young people like Shane who are going to become disillusioned and depressed in that sense. So for me, it was seeing the martyrdom of our people, and learning about organization, learning about the Cuban Revolution, learning about the Algerian Revolution, learning about Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Toure, and Cabral, and Winnie Mandela, learning about Assata Shakur and these people who resisted their reality, and like I keep saying, intervening in that material reality. So it was coming out of a place of desperation and needing to fight back for not just my own individual mental health, but for the communal well-being. So yeah.
So you're listening to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 4. We're here talking to one of Ipsy's lead, Brother Shane. Anything going on right now, that events coming up, or anything that people can plug into what the chapter's doing?
Absolutely. So be on the lookout for this health and wellness clinic popping off early 2025. Bringing Reiki for Evolution, bringing the acupuncture, we're bringing the Narcan. Like I said, we're bringing the full spectrum doula. Be looking out for May Day 2025. I'm a coordinator with the National Network on Cuba with Michigan Action for Cuba Committee. We're taking a delegation from CNB out to Cuba. So be looking for those. We're going to be getting some videos sent back from the island. We're going to be doing some documentation. We're going to be doing interviews and really connecting the international to the local. And still working on the early aspects of this, but community defense around protecting our undocumented comrades from these ICE and deportation raids. So yeah, just be on the lookout for CNB Ypsi. We knew, tap in with us. You got advice for us? You got something you want to collab on with? Tap in with us, man. We're trying to get out here and work with you.
Thank you, Brother Shane. Yusef, you have anything to go before we bounce? Appreciate you for coming on. Sorry we kind of started a little bit late, but them young people was cooking. They was cooking, bro.
Yeah. No, the young people were sharp, man. Ain't nothing.
I do. I got borrowed from Geechee.
You know
what book would you throw at the University of Michigan, man?
No, you can't throw it at them. You got to throw it at somebody. They're going to keep it reprinted and reshaped.
Right. Black Awakening in Capitalist America, Robert L. Allen. Man, that book, before the COINTEL papers come out, you got Allen really laying out a counterinsurgency program of how to really take the steam off a radical movement and push it into a more black capitalist program, really turning black power into black capitalism. I think that book was published in '69, like I said, before the COINTEL papers come out, but it's incredibly sharp. It's that chapter 4, that corporate imperialism versus black liberation. Check out Black Awakening in Capitalist America.
Brother
Appreciate
Shane,
you, good brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Of course. Appreciate y'all having me.
See you soon, bro. Peace. So, man, we're down 4.
Man, what you think about this one, man? This was a bit of a change up, good brother.
No, I actually really like I was really inspired when I was in that classroom, bro. And yeah, so and I'm not gonna say no, I'm gonna say it. So I've been in Morehouse,
okay,
in Clark, in those areas, and maybe I was in the wrong room. Maybe I was in the wrong room, but what I saw on this panel today and what I saw at Howard the other day, I'm like, yeah, bro, it's on. Game time.
Yeah, I'd love to do a follow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can do that. I think we can keep tapping in with them and bring them on every now and then, especially when there's current events or something that they might going on. I think it'll be dope to consistently have them come through on panels. So as long as they're willing, we don't want to, make them spend too much time on YouTube, but as long as they can pop it out, we can do it.
No doubt. And I think like David kind of alluded to with excuse me, Ella Baker.
Mm-hmm.
But like going a little deeper, SNCC, and how she pushed them, like either you can join SCLC or form your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided to form their own thing, but not to form their own thing but to maintain their identity as young people. But also historically, how young folks have always contributed, but not from the sense of being young, but just from the sense of joining the movement. And it's something about that. And I think, like, following up question, you'll be on campus for 4 years, or if you continue, like, then what? Like, how do you see yourself evolving and growing? So I think that would be a dope follow-up question. A conversation.
Now, speaking of the young people's always being involved. So when the last time I was at Morehouse, it was the student nonviolent coordinating committee, SNCC.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Ricky asked this funny question: how long they're going to be students? But Charlie Cobb was there, and Charlie's, I don't know, 80, 90, and Charlie kept saying the movement. They talk about Ella and the movement. And then I got on mic and I was like, yo, it's a lot of young people in here, and I don't know that we all have the same definition of the movement, but could you share what the movement is, especially as you see what's that guy? Bill Clinton was at John Lewis's funeral, kind of shitting on Stokely and how he was more left as SNCC, but Charlie Answer was like, well, the movement is just that. It's whatever. It's not, he said, it's not the size of the boat, it's the motion in the ocean. I'm like, the fuck is he talking about, bro? But I know that, again, if I ask that same question to the panel just now, I know they can clearly say it, but so I think, as you said, like, young people have always been in these spaces, but I'm just not sure that there's always been, I guess, a intergenerational solid connection since Ella Baker. And I could just be bullshitting, but because they talk about how great of a organizer and a teacher she was, and she used to let the young people figure shit out. And when they get off course, she come in, ask a question, and the question pull them back on. But she let the young people lead. And so I just think, I'm not sure that we are there yet, but it looked like it's time to get there again, though.
Yeah, and again, I think today's panel exhibits that. And I mean, I think there's a lot of great young people doing a lot of great stuff across the country, but today was a little different. I mean, like the books they named, shit, I hadn't read.
I was taking notes.
Yeah, those are heavy hitters, right? But also, like, how do you find your balance? How do you not get too high, not get too low? So I think the show and our opportunity to continue to engage them, and not just them in particular, but just across the board. Because I think organizations in general struggle with young people, bringing them in. Besides, like, hey, we just need some young people to run our Twitter, run our run our social media campaigns and shit. So it's another form of exploiting young people because they're young.
Yeah, I think that is a good point, because oftentimes, one, we need people, right? But I think sometimes a heavy focus on young people is a way that you can manipulate them, whether it be money, resources, or them looking at you a particular way. So I do find that to be a thing too. But I think we live in different times, so I don't even know that people can be successful in doing that, because, again, they know how to organize, they know how to call people to the rug, and they obviously touching grass, like Claudia be saying.
Yeah, I mean, again, that group was seemed pretty sharp. So thank you for your idea, brother, and more importantly for pulling it off, man.
Nah, for sure. Thanks again to Kai, my brother Wolf, and if I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry, but thank y'all for pulling on some of your young people to come through and add value to Dare to Struggle, Dare to Win, episode 4. What you got coming up, man? I know next week we got a little banger next week. You gonna tell them who we got coming up?
Nah, man, gonna keep us surprised.
You keep it serious? Okay.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be fire though, and fire in the sense of, like, today's topic was a little different than what we normally been doing. I think next week we'll stay on that same trajectory. Folks will be familiar with the subject. It's a very popular subject as it relates to individual that's going to be involved around a historical dynamic. And I think the ability to explore, I will share the person that we're bringing on, proud member or host, have their own show on Black Power. I'll say Black Power, Black Liberation Media. Don't shoot me, brother. Don't shoot me, man. Don't come beat me up. I don't want no trouble, man.
But I also saw you hinted at what we're gonna talk about next week.
Yeah,
asking a question, but I ain't gonna tell.
I'm gonna show you this, man. This gonna be talking about this book with somebody, man.
What it's good for? Pull it back up, man. Stop being so fast, bro. Pull that back up.
My bad, man. You know, you still
Show
teaching me.
what's going on. That's what. Ooh. Yeah. So
sorry, Leah, it's not Dr. CBS. Oh, man, they got it.
Got it. We still ain't gonna tell y'all. But anyway, yes. Stay tuned. Catch us next week, same time, same place. Bring all your drinks and your smokes and your snacks.
All the questions and all the good stuff. I appreciate you, good brother.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you too, man.
Peace.
So we'll see you soon. All right, peace.